This is not a partisan event, but it's clear that the local MP was not here. Why?
That's a good question. Toronto has 25 MPs. Of the 25, excluding me, 24 Liberal MPs have been missing in action when it comes to the Jewish community in our city being attacked, harassed, and so on. The fact that they continue to turn a blind eye on it is disgraceful and shameful.
Second thing that we all believe is we should stand up to terrorism.
Who do you think wore the masks and arrived here at 5 a.m. on the weekend to shoot up the school? If you had to guess, who do you think they are? Do you think they're the Amish or the Quakers or the Mormons? Who do you think it was?
I think it's people who have always been anti-Semitic, and post-October 7th, they are now free to come above the surface and just do anything they want.
So you don't think it's because we're importing people from countries that are endemically anti-Semitic? Like 80% of people in Gaza tell Gaza pollsters they support Hamas. Do you think it's insane that we're bringing people over from Gaza?
I think the federal government does not have proper screening processes for anyone coming into Canada. So I think there is a government responsibility, for sure.
Now you told me a minute ago that your Ira Sachs was down at the beach yesterday. Why do you think she's not here today?
You have to ask her. But
I'd like to, but she's not here.
When she showed up yesterday, I don't think anybody recognized her.
Condoned it. You've created a new normal where people can engage in low-level, permanent anti-Semitic crimes, assault, threats, mischief, because you guys don't prosecute. But there you are on Twitter, though, so congrats for that. Hi there, I'm standing in North Toronto. Behind me, the Beis Chaya Mushka Jewish Girls' School. On the weekend, a SUV pulled up behind these gates and out jumped two masked gunmen who fired 5 shots into the school. You can see one of the plate glass windows boarded up with plywood. Police had a press conference later that day, a bizarre press conference. They talked about the incident without ever once using the word Jewish or anti-Semitic. It was quite a feat. Here, take a look at how that went, including when I asked the police inspector, has their lack of prosecution of hate crimes and vandalism and mischief and trespass and assault, has the police misconduct contributed to this? Here's how that went.
Just after 9 a.m. this morning, the police were called to the Beis Chaya Mushka Girls Elementary School here behind me. Staff on scene had found what they believed was evidence of a firearm discharge at the school. One of the questions that I'm sure people are asking is this a hate crime? Is this a terrorist act? What I want to say is it's too early in the investigation to say whether it is or not. We're not going to ignore the obvious, of what occurred here and what the target of the shooting was. But at the same time, it would be wrong to just guess at this point.
I have a question for you about the atmosphere in the city. For about 8 months now, we've seen terrorist flags flying out in the open with no charges. We've seen astonishing, hateful comments, uncharged, unprosecuted. We see trespass and mischief at the University of Toronto. Would you say that by refusing to prosecute or charge obvious acts of trespass, mischief, possible hate speech, and many assaults, that the Toronto police has sort of indicated that it's okay to go a little bit further than before October 7th, that there's a new atmosphere around and it's okay if you want to conduct a little bit of anti-Semitic mischief?
So I'm here just to talk about the incident that occurred today. And like I said before, I don't want to jump to any conclusions. The investigators aren't going to jump to any conclusion. At the same time, we're not going to ignore the obvious. And so the hate crime unit is fully supporting this investigation, but I'm just here to talk about the incident today.
Can we talk about the vehicle that they used? I can't remember if you did say.
I just said it was a dark colored vehicle.
But why won't you answer my question about the new atmosphere that anti-Semitism...
Is there any other question?
You don't want to talk about
I'm just here to talk about the
anti-Semitism?
incident. Thank you very much.
Are you saying...
Thank you.
Why
That's
won't
all
you
for
answer
today.
the question
Thank you for
about
coming.
anti-Semitism, sir? Why won't you talk about anti-Semitism? Why won't you answer the questions about anti-Semitism? It's a shooting at a Jewish school. Why won't you answer questions about that? Cowardly Toronto police, just like your chief.
Get into the officer's face. You can't do that.
It's a press conference. I
Okay, I
absolutely
understand
can't.
that, but you can't get into his face and get up into his face like that if you want to ask a question, right? He
He
did
had no,
advise you that he was not going to answer that question.
and
We left it at
I'm
that.
advising him that
Okay.
that's not up to him what I asked.
You can ask, but he doesn't have to answer.
I didn't say he had to legally, but
Well, he made the
morally he
decision
has
not
to.
to answer you.
Yeah, he's a
Okay, that
coward.
was his decision.
Well, today the public had something to say about that. Well over 100, I didn't count, there might have been 200 or even 250 people showed up on this rainy morning to show their solidarity. Police blocked off the street. Some of the Jewish girls came out just to show that they weren't deterred. There were a number of speeches. I'll give you a sampling of some of them. One of the first speeches was by Mayor Olivia Chow, who has boycotted various Jewish events, claiming the Star of David itself is too divisive. She was heckled a bit, but I give her credit. She showed up. Here's how that went.
I'd like to call on Mayor Olivia Chow to join us and share powerful words about these moments in our community.
What for? Why? For what? For bullshit? She has opened her mouth for 8 months to decide. For 8 months she has opened her mouth.
Hey, be quiet. Shut him up. Be quiet. Be quiet.
You shut up. You're a Jew. She's not a guest. She's not a guest. She's not my guest.
Be quiet.
Thank you, everyone.
Quiet.
It is so important
I think it helps our
that we
cause.
stand together as one community,
Yeah, you're smart.
together with our elected officials.
I have as much experience with stuff as you do. Don't you tell me.
This morning, the chief and I visited the administrator and the principal, Rabbi Vidal, and Angelo, who have been keeping the school safe.
There were other politicians speaking, including Michael Kersner, the Solicitor General, who happens to be the local provincial MPP. Here's a taste of his speech.
I'm a third-generation Jew from Ontario, from Toronto, whose maternal grandfather was born at the turn of the last century at the footsteps of the Ontario legislature. And my message to everyone today is very clear. We are not going anywhere. The Jewish community in Ontario traces its roots back to the beginning of the founding of Canada, on the roots of democracy, on the roots of living safely in our own homes and communities, values that we cherish today and values that my colleagues and I in the Ontario legislature will not stop working in support of the Jewish community. The hate and anti-Semitism have no place in our Ontario. And my colleagues surrounding me are proof that as long as the Jewish community is here, we are never alone.
I actually buttonholed him before his speech and put some questions to him. To his credit, he didn't run away like that Toronto police inspector, but what do you think of his answers? Here, take a look. How come there were no charges under Section 176.2 of the Criminal Code besetting a house of worship when all those protesters were outside the Bayit Synagogue in Thornhill?
Well, it's a question that you're going to have to ask the York Regional Police or the Attorney General. I'm here because I'm not going to see my community intimidated. I speak out all the time in support of our Jewish community. I'm not afraid to wear my kippah. I'm not afraid to go to synagogue every Sabbath, every Shabbat, and I'm going to do everything that I can to stand up for our inherent right to live safely in our own homes and communities, and I'm not going to stop.
Everything short of prosecuting them, though, right? I mean, the U of T remains encamped with an illegal encampment. You're very good on Twitter, but have you actually done any prosecutions?
Well, again, this is something that you have to speak to the Attorney General.
He's your colleague. You're in the government. Why should you're on the inside?
No, what I can tell you is I'm working every day to
tweeting every day
that our legislation, that our regulations are adhered to. I'm standing up with my community. I've been 34 weeks, almost every single week, to the rally at Bathurst and Shepherd in support of remembering the hostages who have been held against their will in captivity in Gaza, and it's not acceptable. Well, and that's exactly why.
It obviously is acceptable since you're not prosecuting it. You have condoned it. You've created a new normal where people can engage in low-level, permanent anti-Semitic crimes, assault, threats, mischief, because you guys don't prosecute. But there you are on Twitter, though, so congrats for that.
It's important that the Jewish community sees a person from their own community in the Ontario legislature standing up against hate every single day, who has the support of a premier who has called it out. Where are the other levels of government today who exercise the same voice that Premier Ford does, that we will not accept anti-Semitism?
You have accepted it. Where's the prosecution?
Again, this is something you can ask Minister Varani, you can ask the Prime Minister.
The province prosecutes. The province prosecutes. Better save your boss. Yeah, I'm not sympathetic when members of the government, including members of the cabinet, say, oh, somebody ought to do something. Yeah, you're in cabinet, buddy. You're a Solicitor General. The province of Ontario is in charge of prosecutions. It's as much on the Doug Ford Conservative government what's happening as it is on Trudeau. In fact, in some ways, it's more so. There were a number of other speeches. I'll just give you a very quick sample of them. Take a listen.
I want to speak to the non-Jewish community who's with us today in an appeal to us as Canadians first to stand up and speak up against the vile rise of anti-Semitism being normalized on the streets of this country. To stand up to those who seek to instill fear in the hearts of young girls and children. To stand up against the vile rise of anti-Semitism that we see too often afflicting the Jewish people. We are here with a message asking Canadians to stand up shoulder to shoulder with the Jewish community in defense of democracy, civility, human rights, and the rule of law. That's what we're appealing to today. You know, 90 years ago, talking about the concept of allyship, 90 years ago, Christie Pitts took place, the largest race-based riot in Canadian history, where Italians and Jews stood together against a Nazi mob then. We stand together today in the defense of our democratic character as a country. And that is not up for, we are not going to be intimidated by these acts.
It's good to be with my colleagues this morning. But what a dreadful act that this school was faced with on the weekend. You know, here in the province of Ontario, I, being the Minister of Citizenship and Multiculturalism, get to travel our great province and talk about the multicultural mosaic, a place for people from all walks of life, from all over the world, can call home in peace, in harmony, and feel safe. And of course, in recent events, and the event that took place here on this weekend's night does not meet the test of that. And that is with all of us coming together, united, standing for Canadian values, standing against hate, against anti-Semitism, and calling it out.
You know, it's an honor to serve the people of Thornhill, but I have to say that since October 7th, we've been challenged in a way that has never happened to us. And as a politician, I find the actions that have happened in our city, in our province, very disturbing. And as a mother, I find it disgusting. As an individual, I'm the proud mother of 2 Jewish children, and every day I question what their experience is going to be like, especially in post-secondary. And that's a whole other issue that we could talk about. But watching the lawlessness nature and the normalization, as the ministers have advised, watching the normalization of words now becoming violent is very destructive.
My name's Lisa McLeod. I don't know if a lot of you know me, but I know Larry does, I know Gary does, and I know Sue-Ann does, and I hope Ezra doesn't. Listen, guys, I'm here today. My name is Lisa McLeod, if you don't know me. I'm from Nepean, which is in the city of Ottawa. I grew up in New Glasgow, Nova Scotia, where we have a family wreath, not a family tree. And I came here over 25 years ago to work in politics on the Hill. And then I got elected when I replaced John Baird. Why am I telling you that? Because you don't know me. The other thing that you don't know is for the past 25 years, as I have served in the nation's capital, I've become a Zionist. I've become a Zionist. I am a Zionist. I've raised my daughter as a Zionist. I am not only an ally to you, I feel the hatred that is going on in the Jewish community in Ottawa and what I see right here in Toronto. Probably, and don't tell my constituents this, one of the most consequential cities in the world, Toronto. And this is happening here. This is the message that is sending from us to the rest of the world, that we tolerate anti-Semitism and that we tolerate hate. But today, in the pouring rain, we're all standing here together for two big reasons outside of anti-Semitism. The first is we believe in democracy. And the only democracy in the Middle East is Israel. The second thing that we all believe is we should stand up to terrorism. And the last time I checked, Israel is at war with a terrorist organization named Hamas. And that is why together we stand. Now, my good friend Stephen Lecce made a point. He's speaking directly to allies. And every Canadian should be an ally because we believe in two fundamental things. Democracy, where the rules are set in order to protect the minority against the tyranny of the majority. And the Jewish community here is the minority. And so we must stand up for all of you. And we also stand against terrorism, which is why we sent men and women to Afghanistan, to ensure the protection of our democracy. And that's why we're here today. We're here to protect you. We're here to tell you we have a clear message. And I have a little liberty. I've been elected 6 times. And I have been there almost 20 years. So I am going to say this. And I'm sad they're not here. Where is our federal government today? They need to do more. They need to stand up for you.
Where's your
Provincially, we can do more.
Where's your
And the city of Toronto and the city of Ottawa stand with people like James Pasternak and David Hill in the city of Ottawa. Stand with them to understand that every citizen under the law deserves protection. Every person here does, but I'm going to tell you something. Think about those children. They don't deserve to understand a society of hate because they live in Canada. And last time I checked, we're still the true North, strong and free.
But there was a gaping hole in the speeches. The local MP, Ya'ara Sachs, who literally lives 5 minutes that way, refused to attend. There were all these politicians, there were provincial cabinet ministers, MPPs from as far away as Ottawa. Kevin Vuong, the independent MP, he gave some words. Take a listen.
A few days ago was a Jewish school, but if we don't stop this here, it will be our school next. And so you don't have to be a member of the Jewish community to realize that shooting at an elementary school is wrong. You don't have to be Jewish to realize that the attacks and the harassments that we're seeing, targeting synagogues, can be any house of worship. Targeting a Jewish school can be any school. And people need to step up and stand up and speak up.
But no Ya'ara Sachs. I asked some of the crowd before the rally got started some questions. Here's a sample of that, and one of the things I asked some of them was, where's Ya'ara? Can I ask you what brought you here today?
To support our Jewish community. We really have to. After this, absolutely.
Fight overt anti-Semitism and hate crimes, because a shooting on a distinctively Jewish school is hatred, anti-Semitism, and hate crimes.
To support the notion that we need leadership in upper government to stand for the concept that any gesture or act that incites hate or violence against Jews, Israelis, should absolutely be against the law and have consequences when it occurs, which right now we do not have.
Mercedes, why are you here today?
Because I want to support the children, and I'm upset what is going on.
Why don't you think the politicians care? I mean, they don't seem to care to me. Do you think they care?
They're wishy-washy, no? They don't care.
Why? Why? You'd think that they would...
They're believing the lies, and the truth is reversed. They're treating us as genocidal. Can you imagine that? We the victims. Yeah. So here we are.
So you guys are students, but you're not students here?
Yeah.
And why do you come here today?
I have friends who go to Beis Chaya Mushka, and I think we need to stand up and support what's right.
And how about yourself?
I also have friends here.
Are you scared?
Not really. No, because I think the police have our back and know what to do and stuff.
Well, I sure hope you're right. I don't want to debate you on that because I don't want to win it. I don't want to win that debate with you. I want you to continue to believe that the police have our back.
Yeah.
All right. Nice to talk with you, ladies. And why are you here?
Because enough's enough. Because I'm wearing the shirt today that says nothing in life just happens, and if we just sit silently and let things happen, this will continue to happen.
Well, I think the political class doesn't want to deal with this. To me, the reason's obvious. There are 400,000 Jews in Canada, and there's about 2 million Muslims, some of whom are anti-Semitic, and I think politicians can do the math.
I hear what you say, and I don't think it's an issue between Muslims and Jews. I think it would be easy for us to get along.
Not all Muslims, of course.
Right, but I think it's an anti-Semitism issue, not a Muslim-Jew issue.
You guys here today?
In support, I mean, I don't care what you believe politically. I don't care who you support in anything. Nobody should be in fear for their lives just to go to school. Nobody.
My daughter can't go to public school anymore in Burlington, Ontario at the Halton District School Board and be safe. Okay, and the kids who are coming after her are not Canadian born and raised. I know that sounds terrible, but there are Jewish kids being swarmed in schools because they're Jewish. My daughter was at a cultural event. We had a cultural event where it literally erased Jewish history and Jewish culture. Israel, a flag or a map of the Middle East, Israel was relabeled as Palestine. Jerusalem was called the capital of Palestine. So what we're doing in effect now is because it's become completely unacceptable to criticize Islam. If you criticize Islam, by other Jews I've been called Islamophobic. And that has nothing to do with this. That has to do with my daughter not being able to express herself and be safe at school because she's a Jew.
Where's Yara Sachs today? Did you invite her?
I'm sorry, I'm not. I was just emceeing.
You didn't invite her?
My MP.
Was Yara Sachs invited here today?
I'm sure she knew about it. The mayor knew about it. And there was also the boy who's been facing brutal attacks at the school, mentally, emotionally, physically.
Faybrook or something?
Yeah, the arts-based curriculum school on Faywood there. And, there was hundreds of community members there. Michael Kersner was there. James Pasternak was there. MP Vong was there. But our MP, and it was said, it was like she's just missing in action. And this woman claims to be on our side, on board for us, a woman who was born in Israel or lived in Israel. And it's just what is it, a conspiracy?
If those cowards think that they intimidate us, they're mistaken. If they think they will accomplish what they wanted, it's going to be the opposite. Whenever somebody tries to hurt Jews, the result is the opposite. And it will always be like that. It has always been like that.
I was here over the weekend when the police had a press conference. They wouldn't use the words Jewish or anti-Semitic. I thought it was very telling and very unsettling. What do you make of that?
Wokeness, towing the line, afraid to upset the narrative.
I have one more question for you. The local member of parliament, Yara Sachs, lives very close by. I haven't seen her here yet. Maybe she's, going to...
I've seen her at one rally We go to Baptist and Shepherd every week, every Sunday. She's never been there.
We only see her when she takes pictures with terrorists in Ramallah.
What do you think she'll show up today? Like it's literally 5 minutes from her house.
She's a coward. She has no guts.
She does. We'll boo her, including Olivia Chow.
Now, you told me a minute ago that Yara Sachs was down at the beach yesterday. Why do you think she's not here today?
You have to ask her. But
I'd like to, but she's not here.
When she showed up yesterday, I don't think anybody recognized her.
Well, maybe it's just as well that she didn't come today because I think there would be a lot of booing. There was some booing and heckling of the mayor. I think it would have been off the charts if Yara Sachs was here.
The people who want to support the Jewish community come out and support the Jewish community. And we see a lot of the same faces time and time again. And we see the absence of other faces time and time again. I think that speaks volumes.
She's literally 5 minutes from here. She lives in Bathurst Manor. I don't know why she could walk here.
I think absence sometimes speaks louder than words, and I think the presence here of those who want to be here is also speaking very, very loudly. Thanks for coming out today.
Thank you. Yeah, Yara Sachs has now spent more time with the terrorist leader Mahmoud Abbas than she has with the victims of a shooting in her own neighborhood. Think about that. By the way, I did talk to Kevin Vuong afterwards for a minute. I asked him if he would consider joining the Conservative Party. He said that discussion is underway. Take a listen. This is not a partisan event, but it's clear that the local MP was not here. Why?
That's a good question. Toronto has 25 MPs. Of the 25, excluding me, 24 Liberal MPs have been missing in action when it comes to the Jewish community in our city being attacked, harassed, and so on. The fact that they continue to turn a blind eye on it is disgraceful and shameful.
Are you considering joining the Conservative Party of Canada?
I haven't been secret about the fact that I think there's only so much an independent member of parliament can do. I think we've hit our ceiling. We've done a lot of really great work. But if we really want to address the core issues that our country is facing, the reality is I need to do that with a team, with a party, and ideally from within government.
Are you able to tell us if you've had any conversations or if you have any plans to seek the nomination for the Conservative Party in your district? Obviously, some of those conversations would be confidential, but are you able to share any of them with us?
So it was reported on recently that I have actually sent a formal letter asking to be a part of the Conservative team. I think I can bring value and help to contribute, and I hope that I will have the chance to be able to do that in a riding in the GTA.
Have you had any response yet, or are you keeping that under wraps for now?
Well, I think all of this stuff is obviously ongoing, and so I'm hopeful that there will be a chance ultimately for me to be able to contribute.
I also had a quick hello with Lisa MacLeod, the Conservative MPP from Ottawa. She came in all the way from Ottawa. She was in town for the legislature. She made a longer journey, and Yara Sachs couldn't walk 5 blocks. Take a look. Just really quickly for our viewers, what brought you here today?
I support Israel, and I am so sick to my stomach of what's happening to this Jewish community in Ottawa and Toronto and across Canada that, the legislature's sitting today, so I wanted to be here.
As the crowd was gathering, we got here a little bit early, so I chatted with people. We call them streeters, sort of man-on-the-street interviews, and there were some heartfelt things that people said, but when I pressed them, I said, do you think we ought to turn off immigration from those countries where anti-Semitism is endemic? I mean, for example, Justin Trudeau's talking about bringing people here from Gaza. They're not just anti-Semitic there. 80% of people in Gaza tell Palestinian pollsters they actually support Hamas. They're not just anti-Semitic in their hearts. They want to see the killing. 80%, and still, outside a shooting of a Jewish school, you can take the Jews out of the liberals, but you can't take the liberalism out of the Jews. Listen to this guy. Actually, there were several of them who said, no, we shouldn't do anything rash like stopping immigration. There's like a suicide gene in my people sometimes. Take a listen to these folks. Do you think we should pause immigration to Canada, or do you think it's a net positive?
No, I think it's a net positive.
I think immigration's a net positive.
I think economically, if you see any country that pauses immigration ends up suffering economically, it's not a pause of immigration.
So how much GDP, so we had a shooting here over the weekend, how much GDP is enough to offset that ethnic strife?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I think you're on the path to realizing what's going on, but I don't think you're there yet, because I think you're holding on to Jewish liberal ideals of open borders immigration and this utopian.
No.
I think you're utopian.
No, I didn't talk about open borders.
Well, 2 million people came to Canada last year, including 900,000 students, 600,000 temporary work, and you're telling me that's good for the country while we're standing outside a Jewish school that was shot up. I think you're still not letting go of old ideas that aren't working.
Well, my idea is that there should be better screening of the people who come into Canada, not that we should stop people coming in.
My personal opinion is that politicians are underreacting. I was here on the weekend, the police had a press conference. They didn't even use the word anti-Semitism or Jewish. Why do you think there's been a downplaying of anti-Semitic incidents, including violence?
Well, I'm afraid that it's becoming normalized. I mean, that's my biggest fear. I think politicians, obviously, it's such a hot potato. So, I mean, as soon as they say anti-Semitic, they're going to get a huge backlash on the other side. So I think they're trying to skirt that line between. But I agree with you. You have to call it out for what it is.
Right, but I mean, who are the anti-Semites in Canada? There's some woke students and some institutions, but I think 90+% of Canadians are fine with Jews.
That's a very generous statement. I don't think so.
So who are the problem? Who do you think wore the masks and arrived here at 5 a.m. on the weekend to shoot up the school? If you had to guess, who do you think they are? Do you think they're the Amish or the Quakers or the Mormons? Who do you think it was?
I think it's people who have always been anti-Semitic, and post-October 7th, they are now free to come above the surface and just do anything they want.
So you don't think it's because we're importing people from countries that are endemically anti-Semitic? Like 80% of people in Gaza tell Gaza pollsters they support Hamas. Do you think it's insane that we're bringing people over from Gaza?
I think the federal government does not have proper screening processes for anyone coming into Canada. So I think there is a government responsibility, for sure.
Do you think that we need to pause immigration, especially from anti-Semitic countries?
I think that's oversimplifying the issue. I really do. And I think it's part of the binary thinking, like that is causing this in the first place. Yes, there are people coming from countries without a democratic tradition coming to Canada for safety, and then having been steeped in anti-democratic traditions bring some of that.
I'm not talking anti-democratic. I mean, people come from mainland China. They have no democratic tradition, but they're not anti-Semites. I'm talking about, for example, the government has said they're going to bring over people from Gaza. At least 80% of people in Gaza say they support Hamas. Do you think that's a wacko idea, or are you cool with that?
I'm cool with accepting refugees.
From Gaza?
We have a screening process.
We don't. How do we screen people? We don't ask them if they're anti-Semitic.
We don't ask if they're
I think that we have to be careful. I mean, I'm very, I'm not sure what the word is. I'm concerned when I hear about those kinds of studies about the opinions of people in Gaza, and I'm sure that there are a lot of people in Gaza that are radicalized against Jews. I'm sure.
Well, 80% according to their own pollsters.
But I also think that number, I'm hopeful that people in Gaza don't feel like they can say anything otherwise in Gaza if they're being interviewed in Gaza.
So you think maybe the pollsters are wrong, that Gazans are actually pretty cool with Jews?
No,
I think
look,
I'm thinking that the number might be. I think we have to be really.
So 50% maybe only?
What we have to do is I think we have to be really careful about how black and white we are, about a group of people, and and we just have to be careful. There's no question that there are a lot of people in Gaza that are no friends to the Jews that should not be coming to Canada.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We should not have people coming to Canada that are known anti-Semites, that are absolutely. But to make a blanket statement like nobody from Gaza should ever come to Israel is going a step too far, because that same kind of thinking was used to keep Jews out of Canada in World War II. I
don't think anyone thought the Jews were coming as terrorists to kill us.
I'm not sure if you're right about that. I think they were told a pack of lies about Jews and thought that we were coming to cause all sorts of harm. Right? But meanwhile, I don't disagree with you that we have to be careful about who we let into this country. I'm an immigrant, and I had to do all sorts of things to get into this country. And I had to do even more to become a citizen. So I think we have to be careful. But I also think we have to be careful about using this crisis to promote other agendas.
I don't want to promote any agenda other than stopping bringing people over who scream death to the Jews from the river to the sea, and a couple of folks in masks shooting up a Jewish school. That's my agenda.
Okay, but what are you going to do about the Canadian born and raised kids that go to university and they're shouting from the river to the sea? I don't think it's a problem of immigration. I think it's a much bigger problem than that.
It's both, but I think the first rule of holes is when you're in a hole, stop digging. I think Canada's full.
And I think you have a separate agenda than what we're here to talk about.
I tell you, I don't. I just want to stop bringing over Hamas thugs from the Middle East and other places. That's all I want to do.
Amen. I'm all for stopping bringing Hamas thugs to Canada, but I don't think that also equates to shut off all immigration from any Muslim country.
Well, I think we can start with Gaza, but you and I can agree to disagree. Nice talking with you.
Thank you for being here.
So I enjoyed talking to the people who were assembled. Many of them knew Rebel News, have appreciated our reporting. They asked how David Menzies is doing. And I'm glad they were all here, but I got to say it straight. If the Jewish community, after having their girls' school shot up by masked gunmen, if even the hardest hardcore supporters who come out in the rain to support these girls, if they can't bring themselves to say, maybe we should pause immigration till we find out what the hell's going on, if even they can't say it, I'm afraid that we'll have more shootings, God forbid, in the future. For Rebel News in North Toronto, I'm Ezra Levant. I'm here in front of a Jewish girls' school in Toronto that was shot at by masked men. If you want to learn more about that story or the absence of the local MP who refuses to help, go to firesaks.com, SAKS.com. That's the name of the missing in action MP.